So, Steve, how are you doing today? How's everything over in Pennsylvania?
Things are going well. I am in the midst of writing another online course and submitting some new articles and getting ready for another trek across the country.
Yeah. So you're out of is it Haverton, PA?
Yes, it's in southeastern Pennsylvania, just
Uh,
outside of Philadelphia.
Havertown, they call it.
Yeah,
Town. That's right. My factory was in Telford, Pennsylvania,
I know
and
it's Telford is.
you know where Telford is? Is that very very close to you?
It's only 45 minutes away.
Okay.
I I have a good client there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I used to be in Telford all the time, and I'm a West Coast person, right? So when I was driving through there, I was always amazed, like they're really Pennsylvania really likes the term to use town in their cities or township. It's like every single community, it's either called a town or a township. What's that
It's
all
it's
about?
it's a very old-fashioned state.
Yeah, that's true.
There's
Yeah, a lot of people
lots
lose.
of good history here.
Yeah, a lot of people lose perspective that the United States was first populated in the east and then moved west. So that, I guess that
Yeah,
explains that, right?
it does. It does. Yeah.
So you like to travel, I understand. I was checking out some of your videos. You got a very cool little camper set up and that looks like will go anywhere. What's that all about? I guess you're an outdoorsman, huh?
Yeah, that started about 10 years ago. I've always been an outdoors enthusiast, very athletic my whole life.
Uh-huh.
And I bought a kayak about 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Started doing that and really enjoyed that. And then I started to see videos on camping gear, and I saw this new technology emerging, whereas you could put a little cabin on the bed of a mid-sized pickup truck
I
that
saw
weighs only
that's
a few hundred
yeah,
pounds.
I saw that. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Really good. So I started investing in that. I've developed it, and I've driven across the United States about a dozen times now, and
Uh-huh.
I serve clients on the way. Then I also do extended camping in the
Uh-huh.
Arizona desert, in Utah, New Mexico, Wyoming, all through there. So there's lots of colleges and trade schools where I could teach classes
Uh-huh.
because that's where they use my textbooks. And then there's contractors, supply houses, that I visit along the way.
Yeah, you know what? In a lot of ways, when I get grown up, I'm going to do what you're doing. That just sounds like a lot of fun.
It started out as a marketing experiment.
Right.
In about 2014, I was working with an HVAC contractor in Indianapolis, which is a city to which I would usually fly. And this one time I decided I was going to drive, and I told my marketing guy, do something with the website so people are going to understand I'm going to be driving to
Hmm.
Indianapolis. So
Right.
he put a calendar and he put a map on there. Steve is going to be driving to Indianapolis. And I get a phone call from a contractor in Dayton, Ohio, saying,
Uh-huh.
"Hey, I see you're going to be on I-70. Could you stop here?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And then someone else calls me from Western Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. "Hey, I see you're going to be on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Can you stop here?" I said, "Sure." Now
Yeah.
these were two contractors I would usually fly over.
Right.
I would never even get to see them. So the marketing experiment started to develop about 2014,
Uh-huh.
and then as we improved the website, my calendar, the maps, it really started to turn into a lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
that's when I
Yeah.
really started to combine the work and the leisure side of my life. So that's how the whole thing happened.
Well, you know what they say, if you can figure out a way to do something you love, and by the way, people are willing to pay you at the same time, that's a match made in heaven, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, so I'm not sure if you saw my email, but I've got the exact same e-bike, exact same color as you
I
have.
saw that. Yeah,
I
it's
love
a
that
lot of
thing.
fun. That's my
Oh,
second one. You know,
oh,
I
is
bought,
it?
yeah, I bought one just over a year ago. Put 1,100 miles on it.
Oh,
Beat the crap out of it. I loved it. And then they came out with a 2.0 version.
yep, that's what I
So
have.
I sold the first one. I bought the second one, and I'm beating the crap out of this one too. I'm doing all kinds of off-roading, which I
Yeah,
really enjoy. Yeah, it's fun.
that's awesome. Yeah, I've become a big fan. We have two of them. We strap it on the back of our RV and have a great
Great.
time with that thing. It's a lot of fun. Hey, so you use in your material quite a bit an old term I remember called soft skills.
Hmm.
So my demographic on the show here is HVAC business owners, guys that have been around a long time, guys that are
Sure.
just getting started, technicians out there. There's a lot of younger ones out there. So I want to revisit this real quick. Explain to everybody what soft skills, what that term actually means, because I think a lot of people don't connect with that anymore, unfortunately.
Sure. So soft skills are the behavioral skills that include attitude, uh, how you speak, how well you listen, how well you can convey empathy,
Hmm,
but that it also extends to showing up on time, cleaning up a job afterwards, tucking in your shirt, having good personal hygiene, cleaning your truck or your van, parking the truck or van in the appropriate place, making
right,
a pre-arrival call before you get there, respecting your commercial clients' building and their security protocols, and making sure you're giving the facilities manager or maintenance engineer all the information they need to keep the tenants happy in their
right.
building. So that's not everything, but that's a good part of what soft skills are. It's mostly behavioral skills. And I was made aware of the term soft skills maybe around 12 or 13 years ago because I was always a customer service manager.
Right.
So I always called it customer service. And then when I started to get into academia and writing textbooks for the trade schools, Jerry Weiss from the ESCO group in
Hmm.
Chicago learned about me and he said, "Oh, soft skills." And I said, "What's that?" And he explained it to me. And so that's everything I was already doing, but I was calling it customer service. But it
Okay.
seems like soft skills are a more common term in the mechanical trades.
That's so good. I got a tear running down my cheek right now because that was that was almost one of the things. Like when I was in the contracting world, I had a pretty big shop out of California, and that was the stuff that I said this over and over and over. You could be the most talented, gifted genius when it comes to fixing mechanical equipment, but it just takes, one big old nasty footprint on somebody's office floor, or like you said, parking your truck in the boss's parking spot. That stuff just takes one of those incidents to pretty much erase all that genius that you just put into fixing their equipment, right?
That's it. I mean, and there are lots of really talented and gifted technicians out there who are really good at troubleshooting and diagnosing problems. And uh, many many commercial and residential customers are often looking out their window when they call a mechanical company because they're anxious. The building is
Right.
either too cold or too hot, so they're waiting for the truck. And what they see out the window tells them everything they need to know about the
Right.
company, about
Yeah.
what you look like, whether you're having a good day. If they see empty coffee cups and food wrappers on the dashboard
Right.
of your van, they're thinking, well, what's he going to be like when he comes in here? You know, so before you even get to meet the customer, they've already seen you and they've
Right.
made some assumptions about you.
Right. Well, it's the first impression, right? It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
if it doesn't matter what environment you're in. It's that first impression that matters. And yeah, that's good. So How did you get into this? I mean, so you mentioned that you were a customer service guy. Explain to the audience here, like the Reader's Digest kind of your journey on how you got into academia and you started doing what you're doing.
I was a customer service manager starting in the early 1980s, and I started at a really good time because if you remember, uh, integrated circuits were finding their way into just about every market segment in manufacturing, from kitchen appliances to computers, to automobiles, to musical instruments, to radios, into everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on board around then, and I seemed to have a digital mind, and I became a customer service manager for a consumer electronics company back then.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that was happening in the early 1980s were Ken Blanchard wrote the 1 Minute Manager.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Peters co-wrote In Search of Excellence. W. Edwards Deming wrote Out of the Crisis. It seemed like within about 2 years, new business thinking emerged. And I was this young guy in my early 30s, just soaking it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in at just the right time, got this really good education or self-education by reading these books, and I really developed a continual improvement model for everything I was managing
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how we hired, how we trained, how we staffed, how we served customers. And I did that for about 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I decided I wanted to consult, and I started consulting as a customer service generalist. And then I got introduced to the mechanical trades.
Mm-hmm.
I did a speech for a whole room full of refrigeration and air conditioning contractors. One of them hired me and got a job. He had amazing results right away.
Mm-hmm.
And he told all the other contractors in that association about me. So I got other work, and then a local supply house hired me, and then manufacturers, and so it started that way.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, doing good work matters. And when you're in the front of a room and you're speaking, the thing I've learned is audiences can always tell whether or not you're telling the truth and whether or not you know your stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And after managing customer service for 20 years, you could say I knew my stuff. And it was just easier to be myself, speaking about issues that arose and how I resolved them. This is my first book for the mechanical trades. It's the HVAC Customer Service Handbook. And then the second one that I wrote is the Trade Technician Soft Skills Manual.
Mm-hmm.
And both are used in more than 250 colleges. So I started being a speaker and consultant, and then learned about the academic side and got into that side. So it's been really valuable in terms of having multiple revenue streams.
Mm-hmm.
I can consult, I can speak, and then I have passive revenue from textbooks. I have passive revenue from the online courses that we've created. And in consulting or in any business, having multiple revenue streams is the best model.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's not too long of an answer to the question.
No, that's excellent. Sounds like you're living the American dream, right? You know, you found a niche, a need, and you're filling it. I mean, that's you can't get much better than that.
We do live in a great country. I mean, if you have an idea and you're willing to work your butt off, stay up late, get up early, just bang against every obstacle, you can be successful.
Yeah, I was helping out somebody, believe it or not, over in India, because you can just reach people nowadays with the internet and stuff. And I was helping this guy out with some refrigeration issues. And I just, before we disconnected the call, I said, so, what do you think about America? And it was he didn't have the greatest English, but he basically said, well, pretty much everybody thinks that you're all crazy right now because everybody's, talking about how terrible things are over in America, and nobody understands. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He says, well, the reality of it is, and I've never been to America, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I want to go to America sometime. And you have that thing over there called the lottery, where you put money into and you win stuff. And he said to me that Americans, pretty much every one of you, no matter what your circumstance, being born there, you won the lottery, because there's a lot of it's pretty bad here, he said. And I'm like, you know what? I couldn't put it much better myself. A lot of people.
That's a great phrase. Yeah.
Yeah.
He nailed it. He
totally nailed it. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so I want to talk about the skills gap. And I've been super excited about talking to you about this because, you've been around a while. You service the HVAC niche a lot. And so let's dive into this a little bit. So what's your opinion of the skills gap? It's always been bad. That was one of the main reasons why I got out of the contracting business, because I just got tired of banging my head against the wall. What we invested money in training, and then after a period of time, I really got the feeling like I was training really good guys for my competitors, because they would come along and scoop up my guys. And it seems that it's gotten worse, so what's your opinion about the skills gap and the skills gap acceleration that's going on right now?
Well, the skills gap is one issue.
Right.
And then the workforce demand is another issue. But the skills gap, as I perceive it, is the gap between what a trade school or community college believes they are making available to the contractors out there, and what the contractors are saying they're actually getting. That there's a gap between what trade schools are producing and what contractors are really getting in terms of people they can hire and put to work. I think the best remedies I've seen, and I've seen some progress. I've been going to the mechanical trade educators conferences for more than 12 or 13 years now. And what I've seen is there are more local contractors in a region serving as the advisory board at their local community college or trade school. And they're doing that so they can be consultants to the school to say, this is what we need. And, once you have contractors on your advisory board, then the administrators at the school see the gap and they say, wow, well, we need better equipment in our lab. And the contractors go, I'll talk to the supply house nearby. And they'll get a condensing unit and a refrigerator unit and a retail unit, and they'll get stuff for free from the supply house and equip the college's lab. And I've seen some of that progress happening.
Okay, so, well, that's encouraging.
Yeah, so many of the laboratories have gotten better, from my perspective, out in the field. A curriculum like mine didn't exist 15 years ago. So teaching soft skills was like not even there. Now trade schools and colleges are thinking about soft skills, about teaching young people in the workforce. You got to show up on time. You can't be late. If we say we're going to be there at 8 a.m., you got to be there at 7:45. And you just getting some of these soft skills embedded into the students. So I think the gap has been around for a while, and we're making some progress. But the bigger issue is the workforce shortage.
Hey guys, I have an exciting announcement. We just recently made some updates to our 3 most popular online courses at processchilleracademy.com. If you're a technician that's looking to improve your skills a little bit, maybe get some specialized training to be of more value to your customers and your employer, or if you are an employer, a contractor that is looking to augment your existing in-house training with online training that can be accessible from any device, this is a really great opportunity. Just go to processchilleracademy.com, just scroll down on the homepage and you will see the course area. If you go into the course page, you will see that we currently, for a limited time, we have a promo code of ChillerPro that will save you 25% on any one of these courses. So I hope you check it out, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in class.
In 2005, the Bureau of Labor Statistics indicated that within the next 5 years, from 2005 to 2010, that about 35% of the mechanical workforce will be retiring.
Right.
That was back then.
Yeah.
We can see, when I go to conferences, everyone's got gray hair like me. They're in their 60s, you know. You've got some young people coming in, however, not enough.
Right.
So the biggest change that I think that has been made there since 2010 and beyond is that we've learned that children need to be introduced to career opportunities while they're in middle school. We thought it was high school, but you got to get there sooner in middle school and have the local contractors speaking to children who are 10, 11, 12 years old and letting them know there are other career opportunities beyond a 4-year university degree, and that you could be a plumber, you could be a refrigerator tech, earn really good money, have good job security. And so that has also been making some progress. It's going to take time. And much of that progress began with getting the K through 12 schools guidance counselors to reframe their advice to students, because the K through 12 world was always steer them towards a 4-year university, and reframing that took some time, but I think there's some progress being made. So that's my experience. That's my take. I've witnessed this in real time.
Right.
One of the benefits that the mechanical trades has are instructors who do this as a vocation. They don't get paid enough to do what they do. And then they work all these extra hours being a mentor to these younger students, many of whom don't have a dad. And these guys will mentor these young people, going out with them, bringing them along on a job as a helper. Well, I know some great instructors out there who are just, they're vocational.
Mm-hmm.
And often they can't get approval from their college to attend an educators conference. And these instructors will spend their own money to do it because they know how important it is for their students. So, boy, I've seen that firsthand everywhere around the country. I can name off a dozen instructors right now who are just doing this, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I've been working on this new program I called Skilled Trades Rescue, and I've been doing a lot of research on this whole thing. And the thing I'm seeing, first of all, it's sort of like skilled trades are sort of like the consolation prize, right? It's sort of like, a lot of it is almost like a, cliche right now. If your career, turns to shit, well, you can always be a plumber, right? I mean, pun intended. I mean, that's kind of how it is.
Pun intended, right?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And the other thing I'm finding is the reporting that's out there on the opportunities and the wage growth and all that kind of stuff is just wrong. I mean, putting up on the screen right now, this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right?
Right.
And this data is just incorrect. Like, for example, California, the annual mean wage for a heating, air conditioning, refrigeration mechanic and installer. Now the installers make a little bit less, so that may be part of it, but 63,560 in California, right? And this was as of May. When was this report? May of 2020, right? And I can pick up the phone. Shops I know the owners. Shops I don't know the owners. I could survey, and if whenever I bring this up, like, the mean wage for installers and mechanics in California is $63,000. They look at me like, you're full of it. If I could find a good journeyman technician for $63,000, it just doesn't happen. And I see guys that are making, I'd say the average wage is probably at least 20% more than that. Once you figure in the overtime and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't matter if it's union or non-union. What's your opinion on that, Steve? Why is this data off? Where are they getting their numbers for this stuff?
As far as root causes, I would just say they're probably aggregating a lot of information from different states and factoring that in. The cost of living in California might be different than the cost of living in a different state. So that could be one factor. The other thing is their data pool. What's their data pool, and where are they grabbing the data from? So I'm not sure what all their sources are or the root causes for this. It's a couple years old, as you said, but it shouldn't be off by that much.
Well, and the other thing I think it's happening, I'm not sure if you're noticing this, but there was very few good things that came out of this pandemic, right? So, we're finally, I hope, this coronavirus thing is in our rearview mirror, but one good thing that came out of it is there's a lot of parents out there that, when their kids were strapped to a desk at home trying to learn, they saw things they didn't like, right? So they saw some things that were going on in the school instruction that they didn't like, and I think potentially that parents are waking up to the fact that a college degree, the experience they had in college is not the experience now. It's much, much different now. And I'm hoping and praying that the parents out there can, come to the realization that maybe their child is not college material, and there is a great opportunity out there in skilled trades that doesn't have to be the consolation prize. It can be something that's real. And what's interesting is the media, actually, it's not a surprise, they never talk about skilled trades very much. It's not talked about very much. What do you think about that?
It's not a sexy topic, the skilled trades, right? The enrollment at four-year universities is projected to diminish over the next few years because of the phenomenon you described. Parents seeing what they're paying for, and wanting to make a change. So that's one factor, and that's transparency is always good. One of the things the internet has delivered since its inception is transparency. Is that eventually you can't hide? Is that the stuff is going to be found out?
Right.
So that was one of the areas that happened there. In terms of enrollment at trade schools, community colleges, things were really down in 2020 because lots of schools closed. So my textbook sales went down. Then it really rebounded last year. So
Mm-hmm.
last year things came back, and they're still rebounding now. So the whole idea with the trades being a worthwhile career is one of the things that's going to filter through society as more and more of it continues to happen. And so it's like anything else. The best marketing in the world is word of mouth. And I think the trades are going to benefit from that word of mouth. And that'll be a good thing.
So what do you think would be like the secret sauce to getting to the youth? You mentioned, getting them in middle school and, at least talking to them at their level where they're at. And, what can people at our place in our careers do to encourage consideration, at the very least, of getting into skilled trades versus college? Like what are things that every business owner, American parent, what are some things that you think that we can all do to expose our youth to the possibilities of skilled trades?
Well, the best way to share a message is person to person.
Mm-hmm.
So, I see it out in the field all the time. As I mentioned earlier, contractors volunteering their time to do a presentation at a middle school, and not just to hold up the tools, even though the tools are cool, but let me just talk about tools for just a minute. So the tools of 20 or 30 years ago are what people still have in their head. It's a wrench, it's a screwdriver, it's a ratchet. But today, a contractor shows up, and now he's got these cool gadgets. They're digital gadgets, and you pass that around the room, and now kids are like, "Oh, this is pretty cool," So,
Yeah.
So some of that is one thing we can do is to convey that it's not like it used to be. It's not your father's mechanical trade. It's a little more cool. But then the other thing, a contractor who's visiting a middle school would have to convey is, if you want to get into the trades, children, learn your math.
Mm-hmm.
You got to learn math. You got to learn science. So you may not be required to learn the multiplication table, but I would urge you to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So do more than you have to in terms of learning math, learning science.
Right.
And the more children you can get on board to taking seriously some of these courses, the better off we're all going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to be persuasive is always person to person.
Mm-hmm.
You show up. So one of the things I've done since 1985 is I spend a week every summer counseling children at a camp here in Pennsylvania. I'm an athletics director. So even though I'm old, I still have this athletics program that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just athletics. I'm teaching life lessons while I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got boys who are like 8 to 10 years old, and we're doing athletics, but I'm also teaching them vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
I use words they've never heard before. And once you can introduce a word to a child and then use the word and then ask them questions about the word so they have to use it, and then you find children seem to have this comfort level using new words. And the little light bulb goes off and says, "Oh, okay, that's how it works. You hear a word, you learn the definition, and then you use it." The same thing with mathematics and all of that. So people have to volunteer. You got to get involved. It's person to person.
Right.
And it's the easiest way to be persuasive. It works
Yeah,
well.
I just recently did a mini series on programmable logic controllers, because they're making their way into all kinds of equipment out there. And I've been amazed at the comments that I'm getting from people who are some college graduates, and they're like, wow, I had no idea that this type of technology is being applied to heating, air conditioning, refrigeration equipment. And you're exactly right. I mean, nowadays technicians are showing up with tablets. They're jacking into PLCs to see what the heck's going on. The PLCs are starting to communicate with the world out there what's wrong with the equipment. I mean, that's stuff that was rocket science, man, when I first started doing this in the 80s. I mean, it was like, and it seems like we were slow. It seems like the HVAC refrigeration business was really slow to come around to using processors and going, with printed circuit boards and things like that. And, it's finally now becoming real mainstream. I don't think you can get a commercial piece of equipment nowadays that doesn't have a PLC or some type of logic controller inside.
Very true. Very, very true. And the whole application of that technology, how it's changed things, is just tremendous. Lots of the trade school students today, they're used to a field piece or a fluke digital device, right? Mm-hmm. And they've got that nice bright yellowish orange color, Mm-hmm. So when I go teach at a trade school, I bring this yellow Sony Walkman.
Oh man!
Exact same color as the fluke or the field piece device, right? So I bring this Sony Walkman and hold it up, and they're all going, "Oh, which one is that?" And I hand it around, and they're all confounded. They have no idea what it is. What do you do with this thing? And then I show them, and I show them to make a point. And the point I make is that the company that manufactured this used to own portable audio, and now they don't.
Yeah.
And the reason why they don't is that they had an internal communication problem. The research and development engineers within Sony, they had factioned off into what are called silos, where you had separate business units that did not talk to each other. And they lost market share.
Each other.
Right. And so the point I make is that when you girls and guys get hired by the local company in town, your most important customer is going to be your coworker. We don't want to have any silos. So that means complete your paperwork 100%. You don't leave a job until you got the serial number, you've got the date code, you've got everything that the office is going to need to complete that transaction. When you serve your coworkers well, the benefactors of that improvement are going to be the external customers. So it takes about 5 minutes to get it across about internal service, but that's the big push I have seen today, because the biggest issue in contracting companies today is internal service, is incomplete paperwork, is inappropriate dispatching, inefficient dispatching, and lots of clutter inside the trucks in terms of tools and parts and supplies. So my big push these days is let's get better on the inside. Mm-hmm. If we can improve internal service, then the benefactors of that will be the external customers.
Right.
But it all starts with that yellow Sony Walkman, which is a lot of fun to do.
I'll bet you get some interesting looks for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So give me a fun story about, something that you've done for one of your clients or students, or however you want to, whatever story you think is fun that you would consider to be, kind of a success story for the solutions that your company provides.
Sure. So one of the soft skills training I deliver, besides working with technicians and first impressions, I also do telephone skills training. And my training on the telephone is mostly based around the first impression again. However, it involves what I call vocal imaging, how to convey a vocal image that other people perceive to be positive. And to do it effectively, you have to slow down your pace of speech. So I train people in this. So one of my first clients was in Telford. It was a Christian Heating and Air. Dave Peppelman was the owner of the company. And I went in there on a Saturday to do some training. And they had this little woman named Sophia. She was only about that tall. And she worked the phones. So I did some training on slowing down, smiling, vocal imaging. After you ask a question, shut up and wait for the answer. Don't interrupt. Just simple things like that. So I did the training. I called Dave up about a month later, and Dave goes, "Do you remember little Sophia?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "She sold $10,000 in maintenance agreements last month." He said, "That's never happened before," and all because she just made a few small changes. So that's always fun. I love when I work with a small family company. I go in, I do some training, and the next morning, the father calls me up and says, "You're not going to believe it. My daughter sold a water heater." It's just like within 24 hours, they get the return on investment right away. So the most fun part of the work we do is knowing we can make a difference.
Right.
And contractors have so much potential that is latent. And all they need sometimes is just a little tweak, a little change to take that latency and turn it into something more productive.
So, Steve, when you go into let's say you go into a consulting engagement with a HVAC refrigeration contractor. So what's the first couple of things that you really zero in on that's pretty consistent through your experience? Like, what are the things that you really like to close in on when you first show up?
Well, doing a brief needs analysis is how I start, just so I can understand a little bit about the company culture, about the company history, whether they have any documentation. So what I find often, even with large companies with a couple of hundred employees, is they don't document what they do, and they wing it. So in finding things like that, some of my training might include how do we document what we do? Because if you document what you do, then your employees can do what's been documented, which is the approach in international standards. So that's one of the first things I do is to make sure that if I'm working with them, let's get things written down, let's get things documented, let's create standard operating procedures, and then I do train the trainer to make sure after I'm gone, there's a supervisor or a manager who is responsible for the ongoing training. Because what I find about customer service and soft skills, you talk to a contractor owner about customer service and he goes, "Oh yeah, we did that last year." It should be every week. Someone should be in their weekly meeting, should be spending 5 or 10 minutes on a new customer service skill, on listening, on how to convey empathy, on how to ask the right questions, how to paraphrase what the customer just said. Every week, pick a different topic and focus on it, because redundancy is a great training device.
Well,
so
you
that's
have
the
to
approach
develop
that I
the
usually
habits,
take.
right? That's
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yep, for the habits. So that's the approach that I take. I'm just amazed at how little documentation there is out there for how companies do things.
Yeah, that's all great stuff. So, Steve, what are you doing now? Like short term here, I think you said in the beginning of our interview here that you were getting ready to go back out in the field. You're getting ready to go on the road again.
I am. I'm going to be heading out west to
Uh-huh.
the Southwest, but I'll be speaking at colleges, trade schools, serving clients on the way. I'm speaking at HVAC Excellence on March 22nd in Las Vegas. So there's things to do, but then there's also lots of time to camp out on the desert.
There you go. Get on the
Yeah,
e-bike.
right.
So if some of my audience out there wants to get a hold of you, I have your website up here, and they have some things that they need help with. What's the process? Just call you up and say, "Hey, Steve, I got a problem," or how
Yeah,
how do people reach out to you?
my website is my last name. So on your screen, you can see my last name, Coscia. The website is just Coscia.com. So go to the website, send me a message from there. My phone number is 610-853-9836. And
Okay.
either way works. And
Yeah, and let's
that'll
see.
be fine.
I was just doing some research here, so it looks like you got a bunch of books here on Amazon. You got a lot of books. It must take you forever to write all this stuff.
It takes time. There's a lot of time involved.
Right.
My experience with writing is it's about 50% organization and 50% creativity.
Yeah.
If you can't be organized, you're probably not going to write. So being organized is a key part of it.
So your latest book here is this HVAC customer service handbook. Is that different than the soft skills manual?
Yeah, the HVAC customer service handbook is a little more recent, and it covers information for the people out in the field, but
Mhm.
also for the people in the office. There's telephone skills in chapter 3, and
Okay.
it's good for both residential, for commercial, for plumbing, refrigeration, lots of worthwhile information. And then the trade technician soft skills manual is more for the people out in the field. So there's not much of the office work in that one.
Mhm.
So that's the difference between the two books, and they're both available either in print or in digital format.
Okay.
So the both books are like the trade technician soft skills manual is available in the MindTap platform. Cengage is the publisher, and they have a platform called MindTap. It's a
Mhm.
very interactive textbook. Every chapter has videos. They have quizzes. It's real interactive. Really, really good. And then
Have
the
you
HVAC
done?
customer service. I'm sorry. What was that?
Oh, I was just wondering if you've done any audio, like have you audio booked these books?
Have not. Have
Okay.
not yet. I get
Yeah.
asked every now and then. Just haven't made the time to do it. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, it's interesting that we produce our podcast in video as
yeah.
well as audio, right? And I get a lot of comments from people that watch or do the podcast, like our podcast, is that they listen in their trucks while they're out driving around, right? And then it's difficult because when you're talking about something you're putting up on the screen, it's a little cumbersome because you have to really go pretty slow and create a word picture to try to cater to the people that are driving around in their service trucks. But what's interesting is a lot of them initially first listen to the podcast driving around, and then if it happens to be an episode of something they're interested in, they'll go back and check it out again on the video. And
Yeah.
I get a lot of comments about the fact that I produce it in audio and video. So anyway, just a comment.
No, it's good. I've gotten it before. I have created lots of audio.
Hmm.
So we've got a whole series of MP3 files that
Yeah,
I made available at no charge.
yeah.
That
On the
that
website.
Yes, that people can get access to.
Okay.
They're part of our training systems. And then the other things we've done is we've created actual online courses.
Mm-hmm.
So I've created 6 courses. I'm working on the 7th one now, and those are all accredited. So technicians can earn NATE credits and lots of other cool things that way.
Very cool. Very cool.
And then we put lots of videos in the blogs, that are on the website. So it's pretty neat.
Very cool, Steve. Well, that wraps this up. I am super excited to have you here, and like I said, I was really looking forward to this interview. Any last things you'd like to share with the audience?
No, I just want to thank you for hosting me. This was lots of fun. It's always good to talk about the mechanical trades. I would urge your viewers and your listeners to look at the upside of everything we are doing. Attitude is just about everything, and we're all responsible for our circumstances wherever we might be. It may not be your fault, but wherever you are, you got to make choices. Make positive choices.
Well, this episode of the Process Chiller Pro is a wrap, as they say. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm very much looking forward to developing a relationship with you and seeing if I can help you in your career path as much as I possibly can. I'm looking forward to hearing from you on LinkedIn, where I'm at most of the time. I'm also on all the social networks. You can also send me emails at mking@processchilleracademy.com. And I will see you next week for our next installment of the Process Chiller Pro podcast. You have a great week, and go get them out there. I'll talk to you soon.